Boat anchor was probably a derogatory term when first used in ham radio, but for many of us, those big heavy rigs with those heat-producing vacuum tubes hold a lasting fascination. I hope the following video inspires those with limited tube experience or limited test equipment to jump in and restore that old rig lying around a shack gathering dust. Just remember to respect the high voltage potentials, one hand in the pocket, and clip leads when you can. Check out the many YouTube channels and websites for help, and whether you intend a complete factory fresh restore or like me just get it working, enjoy the trip and see you at the Hamfest. Okay, welcome back to the channel, all you electron abusers and boat anchor likers. Here I got my latest project, a nice looking Johnson Adventurer. This baby goes back to the 50s. One thing I read or heard said it 1954 was when it was built or originally sold. And I even got the manual with it. And this one was built from a kit. Now I've already purchased some capacitors and bleeder resistors from, let's see, who was it? Mauser Electronics. I want to commend them. If you need a part, go to their website. I got this part, these parts, in about 3 days. I mean, it's almost as good as the old Radio Shack. And they have quite a selection of parts, and I don't own any part of the company. Hi. So what we're going to do here is open this up and see if I got what I ordered, and we'll go from there. Alright, everything is exactly as I ordered it, well packed, actually overpacked with this double wrap, bubble wrap, and so, next step, we got to get into the rig, and I have had it apart once just to check it out when I first got it down at Hamcation here in Orlando, south of me about 100 miles. So, we're going to pull the rig open. I'll let you see what she looks like inside. Okay, here's the inside of the Johnson Adventurer, just as I found it. Dusty, dirty, no signs of any trauma, i.e. burnt transformers, resistors, etc. Very simple radio, a rectifier, an oscillator, and an output tube. The famous 807s. Probably jerking this camera around a little too much. And over here you can see the original label is still here. Paper, of course, but there it is. Johnson Company, E.F. Johnson Company. Now this thing gets really interesting when you turn it over. Look at these coils. Interesting, to say the least. I guess you hand wound those when you made the kit. And of course I got to replace these filter capacitors. Someone wrote their call in here, actually two people, KN4BVI and WN4MN. Somewhere along the line we're in here. And we're going to now replace the capacitors, check the transformer and choke, and hopefully we'll have a little transmitter here to play with. This came with a Heathkit VFO, which if I get the transmitter to work, then we'll see if we can use the VFO with it. So hang in there and we'll be back. I also discovered this blown capacitor. It's a line bypass. Keep RF off the line cord, so that'll have to be replaced also. Okay, for the first test, since I don't have a way to bring the voltage up slowly, I pulled the tubes out and I checked this voltage here. And I'll show you that I expected 350 volts AC. This is a voltage doubler circuit, produces 700 volts when you charge up the capacitors. So we'll throw the power on, see what happens here. Power's on. I'll try not to make you seasick here. And we have a pilot light on the rig, which is a good sign. And as you can see, we've got 300 and whatever voltage AC on my antique Heath kit VOM. It seems to vary some. I don't know what that means. Next step, we're going to put the rectifier tube in and see what happens. Could be interesting. Okay, not being the most patient guy in the world, I just decided to replace the tubes and power the unit up, see what happened. I was checking the DC voltage at the original capacitors. It looked like one came up quickly, the other one slowly. I kept turning the power off and on, trying to reform the capacitors without blowing them. However, eventually one of them gave up the ghost and outgassed. So at this point, it looks like the transformer's good. I immediately killed power when the capacitor went. So I'm going to go ahead and do what I should have done in the first place and replace the capacitors. And then we'll see if we can power it up again. Okay, here's a little view of what looks like when one of those caps outgasses. It leaves all those little particles all over the place, which are tough to clean up, but that's the cost of being impatient. Okay, as you can see, I just used some twist ties to tighten these capacitors up a little bit so they don't flop around. I was going to put balance resistors in. I don't think they're necessary. The voltage across these capacitors is almost identical from one to the other, and the voltage is 100 volts lower than their rating. And being brand new, they'll probably outlast me, that's for sure. So we're going to leave that the way it is. Okay, the 5U4 is plugged into the rig. I'm going to turn the power on, see if we get sparks. We got something lit up. Whoa, that didn't look good. Saw an arc in the tube. Okay, I've replaced the tubes into the rig. I can't find any shorts. The tube still looks good with an ohm meter. I'm going to reapply power, see what happens. Here goes. I don't know what's going on, but I don't see any more sparks. So I'm going to set the meter up, see what kind of voltages I've got. Alright, I've replaced the capacitors and the power supply. We're looking for 700 volts DC and hopefully no problems. Here we go. $6.58. Looks like both filaments in the rectifier tube are lit. It's the one I had the little flashover in before. You probably can't see it in the shot, but the 807 has got a filament. If we look at the front of the rig, the pilot light is on. Everything looks copacetic at the moment. Nothing's burning up. Nothing's frying. And I'm going to let it sit here for a minute or two and see what happens. Well, here we go. I have a dummy load hooked up. I've read through the tuning instructions. I have a crystal inserted. We're going to see if this thing wants to put out any RF. Got my DX10 on frequency. I'm concerned about what the note's going to sound like because I couldn't get the exact right capacitors for the power supply. Here goes. Well, that's a good sign. We got a little something. Now I'm supposed to tune for maximum grid. No, that wasn't the correct thing. Alright, here we go. Alright. Love the way that needle jumps around. Okay. Now we're supposed to switch the plate. And we're supposed to dip the plate. Guess what? We have no plate voltage. Back to the drawing board. After 2 hours of troubleshooting, I finally located the final problem with the rig, which was this wire broken off of the tank coil. It was broken off in such a way that you had to be looking at exactly the right angle to see it, that it wasn't connected. Hooked that back up and proceeded to test the rig. And so a happy ending. 28 watts indicated. Output on 7.054. Another boat anchor ready for action.